I think the initial part of it was getting the council trained, and we spent workshop sessions 2 or 3 times a week for 3 or 4 hours. The council was briefed on all facets of the city government, and they worked very diligently because they didn't have very much experience, and they really got to know the city well. So that was the first part of what we did. We looked at the city charter for months and came up with some recommendations that we submitted to the voters in May of 2013 that they approved. The significant portions of that were to get the internal auditor under the city council instead of under the city manager, to create an audit committee, to, in essence, change the timeline on when we could hire the external auditor. We just had a 6-month window, a 6-week window in which to do that in the old charter. And we opened that up so that we could hire the external auditor earlier, so that they get started on some of their planning work, and that was a good move. We also changed some of the requirements for a recall. Under the old charter, you had to get a petition from the entire city to recall a district council member, even though they were only voted for by the members of their district. So we changed it to where the recall petitions had to be done by the people who elected them, which seemed to make a lot of good sense. And those were all approved by the voters. In the middle part of the term, we really worked on water issues a lot. One of the concerns was water treatment capacity and whether or not we were getting close to triggering some requirements from the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality that would require us to start building a new water treatment plant, or at least planning for it. And that's something that had been under consideration by past councils for several years. And we looked at our alternatives and made the best decision on that, and we've entered into a contract with Water Control Improvement District number 1, who will build and operate the plant. We'll pay $5 million up front, and they will issue $25 million in bonds and keep charging us basically the same rates that we have right now. So the ratepayers will not have any increase in their rates. And already we have one of the lowest rates in Central Texas for water at $36.03 for 10,000 gallons of water. So that was a good move. The other thing that we did in the area of water was to create a water reuse plan and a contract with the Water Control Improvement District number 1, where we can use the water that's being dumped into Nolan Creek now for irrigation or for other things that might be needed in the community. If we got a business in that needed a couple million gallons a day in water for cooling or whatever industrial use they may have, we could provide that to them at a much cheaper cost, and it wouldn't come out of the lake, and it wouldn't be water that we were buying from the Brazos River Authority, in essence, through Water Control Improvement District number 1. So that was a really good move. One of the other things I'm real proud of that we did was to give the go-ahead for a homeless shelter that we expect to see opened by this winter. Families in Crisis will operate that, and that's something the city has needed for a long, long time. Another thing we were very concerned with was improving the image of the city, and a lot of that had to do with the aesthetics and the way we looked, and we've really focused on what we call cleanup and just trying to get people to pay more attention to how we look. Tougher code enforcement, tougher administration of the laws, and I've seen a noticeable improvement over the last couple of years, and I hope we can keep that going. Working with the council, these people spend a massive amount of time preparing, studying their packets, and trying to do the right thing. I think one of the very first meetings that we had on Fort Hood, shortly after the council was sworn in May of 2012, General Odierno gave a presentation at 7 o'clock breakfast on Fort Hood, and our entire council showed up for that. And that's indicative of the interest that they've had in doing their jobs. So that was probably the thing that made me feel the best during the whole time I was mayor. I think the council's approval of extra funding for the homeless shelter was very significant. I think the council's approval of the $20 million bond package for park improvements and widening of Tremere Road, I was really proud of the unanimous vote of the council in doing that. I thought that was a significant statement that they were really interested in improving the quality of life in our community, and I think it spoke volumes. I think one of the most challenging things for me has been trying to figure out what facts we need to present to the council to help them with their decision making. Good decisions require the finding out all the facts that are necessary to make the right decision. We really need to identify all the alternatives, look at the cost benefit, the advantages and disadvantages of each alternative, so that the council can make the right decision. So it's always a question of whether or not you've got all the information that is needed to make the right decision. And that's something that I and the staff have always struggled with to try and get that in front of the council. I imagine if I studied it closely, I could find some things, but I've been the kind of person to look forward, not look back. So I'm very pleased with the work that we did during the last 2 years on the council, and I think the council should be commended for their diligence and investigative work and their efforts to always try to do what's right. Well, my advice to him would basically be to understand that you've got a really competent city manager. The staff is excellent. Your main job is to get 4 votes because you don't have a vote as mayor, but you need to lead the council and help them make the right decision. That's the primary role of the mayor. I wasn't planning on running for mayor. I have no plans to run for anything. I don't know what opportunities will present themselves in the future, but I have no political plans at this time. And I don't know what the Lord has in store for me in the future, but if it's something I feel like I can do, I may do it. And I hate politics. I think that the number one problem we have in this country is most of our elected officials care nothing about anything other than getting reelected. And I promised my wife I would run for 1 term as mayor, and I did that. And I'm moving on to whatever, traveling right now. But I don't know if I'll ever seek another office. I never planned on seeking this one. But the Lord knows what the master plan is. I don't.